at the end, it was all about absorption. It was not about the startups or the innovators saying, yeah, there is a fantastic tool here with data to manage traffic, and you can have it in an app. So yeah, fantastic, but I'm not sharing the data with you because I don't feel I trust you or anything like that. So it didn't matter. You have marvelous innovation happening, but there was no adoption, right? An absorption of that.
You talked earlier, right, about some of the friction points, some of the challenges that come up when you're trying to drive change and do new things in an organization. And I want to talk in a minute about some of what you've learned and the tips and tricks you've learned along the way. But my last question about what you're doing right now, are you running into these friction elements, and how are you dealing with the idea of bringing the rest of the organization along on this concept of a global platform?
So actually, because I come from the World Bank, CAC, I don't feel I have any friction at all.
Compared to that, anything goes.
Anything goes. I think it's a completely different environment because the CAC is almost a startup at heart, and it operates like that.
Absolutely.
So it's able to change systems very fast and to create new things. And I think having the founder Tim Rowe is still there as the CEO and bringing the spirit, he still has that heart of entrepreneur, and he's has this culture of, you want to try something new, just present a business case, let's go with it, and we will adapt the systems. So I think in that sense, it has been like a ride. It has been super easy, and the question has been more of, how do we integrate it afterwards to make it system? So it's the opposite.
Got it. So you can, got it. You can get to POC pilot real quick. You're going to make that happen, and then you got to figure out scale. Well, exactly. Okay. So for folks who are feeling like they're stuck in more of the, I won't name and shame, but the big organizations that are a lot more risk averse, a lot more inclined to say no, what are some of the tips and tricks you picked up along the way? Like, how do you think about advocating for, getting support for, and driving risky new ideas?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a passion of mine because I spent almost 13 years at the World Bank.
Yes, we're probably going to pick on institutions here for a second, but the World Bank has deployed a lot of capital and done a lot of good in building innovation ecosystems. But from the inside, and I think, much like, pick your large private enterprise, like Pepsi's done a lot of, I'm naming and shaming them, like they've delivered a bunch of lovely blue, delicious cans to a lot of people, but I'm sure there are folks on the inside that feel friction. So what I want to do is I want to make sure we normalize this. Like, most organizations, to one extent or another, have this inherent bias to the status quo. And that's incredibly hard for an innovator, right? So how did you deal with that?
Yeah, no, and look, it is normal because these organizations are built for that. The World Bank at the end is a bank, yes, and therefore it's risk-averse. And so you can do it, it's just more challenging, which for a person like me is more exciting because I need to find what is the strategy every time, right? And how to get the goal. It's just adding another complication. So it's exciting on one side. It can be tiring because it's fighting many of the time. So yes, these organizations are built for that, but it's normal because they need to have this risk aversion when you are lending money, and you are lending money at the scale of 500 million to $1 billion for a loan, right? So I mean, look, I mean, there is a reason for all of this, and that's the reason they have all these auditing systems. They also were risk averse because they didn't want to finance something. So they try to say, hey, has this worked? Give me examples that this has worked in the last 10 years. And you go like, this is new. How am I going to tell you that?
Well, but it's a fair question. Every innovator is going to get that, right? And so there's patterns and methodologies that we've built over time to try and like prove through iteration. But to be fair, that's pretty hard to do. Like, it's hard to prove through iteration when you're talking about deploying $1 billion at a time.
Exactly. So how to do it? And there were ways to do. And I learned. I didn't come with a playbook. I just learned on the way. So you. Actually, the World Bank has something that is fantastic that I took advantage of. So if you go through the project approval, then you have funding that you can use for iterate or pilot or things like that. So you have a lot of small funding for POCs if you know how to use it. It is not intended per se as a mechanism for that, but it works. And if you raise your funding to do that, and the donor is in agreement, then you can do it, and it's small quantities. So that allows you to POC many things, and then you can build the case with the client government, and then they are the ones requesting it. So you build allies there, right? Then you need to also build allies internally, and that's the issue. So tricks, you need a good champion. Preferably, you need a leader to champion this, and they existed in the bank. You have directors that were saying, this is important. We need to have some innovation here. We need to look at technologies, and we need to bring that over. But that alone is not going to work, because the mid managers are usually the ones stopping this. So you need to find who can help you talk the language of each of the departments you're gonna have a problem, right? So with different ones, they will say like, this is out of procedure. I mean, the problem means it's out of procedure. The answer is no, and you were like, yep. Well, how do we make it yes, right? So you need someone that understands that it's a champion of this, that helps you, and you become friends at the end, and they understand. It takes a lot of time and are building connections, a lot of coffees. I have to tell you.
But that, like, I think for some folks, that's going to be such a familiar story, right? There's different levels of it, but that notion of, I mean, like, let's use MBA speak, right? Stakeholder alignment, whatever. Like, fundamentally, what you're getting at is that organization, if this is fair, organizations are made of people. People have motivations and interests, and engaging their curiosity, rallying support is actually just kind of important when you want to drive change, right?
Yeah. And the other trick I found, and I apply that with governments, actually, because I was doing a POC in Colombia and Chile about that. How do you bring open innovation for public services? And what will I learn there, and I mean, we will learn with the team is, at the end, it was all about absorption. It was not about the startups or the innovators saying, there is a fantastic tool here with data to manage traffic, and you can have it in an app. So fantastic, but I'm not sharing the data with you because I don't feel I trust you or anything like that. So it didn't matter. You have marvelous innovation happening, but there was no adoption, right? An absorption of that. So we spend in all these POCs, what we're doing is spending time just convincing these folks that this was good. So we made a methodology of how to do that and apply that. And then I used that also for myself. And then I had a stint of 2 years in the internal innovation team of the bank, just scaling that up internally, right? So the thing is exactly your point. It's about people. It was about looking, what is it for that person particularly? What is going to be something that person cares about? And how can we solve that with this problem? And it took us a while, a lot of conversations, a lot of interviews, personal trust, and so on and so forth. But at the end, you find out there's something. And as soon as you solve that, the person clicks and changes. Granted, it's not going to happen with all of them, but around 50% of people that are in those positions will have something that you can help them with. And it can be directly or associated with what you want to get. And that is how you flip them. And then you start getting them as supporters. And then you build your critical mass until you achieve what you need. And that works. It works very well because, as you said, at the end, it's about people. It's about changing the culture. It's about bringing them to your cause in a way that they have buy-in.